Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my beloved brothers and sisters in faith. Welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into the extraordinary lives of forgotten Islamic heroes who changed the course of history. Today, I'm absolutely excited to share with you a story so incredible, so mind-blowing, that it will completely transform how you see the world of medieval exploration and Islamic civilization. Before we begin this epic journey, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what you're about to discover will leave you speechless and inspired beyond measure. Have you ever wondered what it takes to venture into the complete unknown? To travel thousands of miles into territories where no Muslim had ever set foot before? What kind of unshakable faith and extraordinary courage does it require to serve as an ambassador to peoples whose customs, language, and way of life are completely foreign to everything you've ever known? Today, I want to tell you about a man whose name should be spoken alongside the greatest explorers in human history, a brilliant Islamic scholar and diplomat whose journey into the frozen lands of the north would produce one of the most valuable documents of medieval literature and give us unprecedented insights into cultures that have long vanished from the earth. This man is Ahmad Ibn Fadlan, and his extraordinary mission to the land of the Bulgars in the year 921 CE represents one of the most remarkable adventures in Islamic history. A journey that would test every fiber of his being and create a legacy that continues to fascinate scholars and adventurers more than 1,000 years later. Picture this scene with me for a moment. It's the year 921 CE, and in the magnificent city of Baghdad, capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, the Caliph al-Muqtadir receives an unusual request that would change the course of exploration history. Far to the north, beyond the borders of the known Islamic world, in the cold and mysterious lands near the Volga River, the king of the Bulgars sends an urgent message to the commander of the faithful. This king, whose people live in conditions that would terrify most civilized men, has made a decision that shocks everyone who hears it. He wants to convert to Islam, along with his entire people, and he's requesting the caliph's help to build mosques, send Islamic teachers, and establish the infrastructure of Islamic civilization in his remote kingdom. The request presents the Caliph with an incredible opportunity, but also an enormous challenge. On one hand, the potential to spread Islam to new territories, to bring the light of Islamic civilization to peoples who have never heard the call to prayer, represents exactly the kind of mission that Islamic leaders dream about. On the other hand, the practical difficulties are staggering. The journey to the Bulgar lands would take months through territories controlled by hostile tribes, across rivers that freeze solid in winter, through forests where wolves and bears roam freely, into regions where Islamic law has never been heard of, and where the very concept of monotheism is foreign to most inhabitants. The Caliph needs someone special for this mission, someone who combines Islamic scholarship with diplomatic skills, someone brave enough to face the unknown but wise enough to navigate complex political situations, someone who can represent the sophistication of Islamic civilization while adapting to the harsh realities of frontier life. After careful consideration, the choice falls on Ahmad Ibn Fadlan, a scholar and diplomat whose combination of religious knowledge, linguistic abilities, and adventurous spirit makes him perfect for this extraordinary mission. But who exactly was this remarkable man who would become one of history's greatest cultural ambassadors? Ibn Fadlan was born in Baghdad during the golden age of Islamic civilization, when the city was the undisputed center of learning, culture, and political power in the Islamic world. He grew up surrounded by the intellectual ferment of the House of Wisdom, where scholars from across the known world came to study, debate, and advance human knowledge. His education was comprehensive and rigorous, covering Islamic jurisprudence, theology, linguistics, mathematics, and geography, preparing him for a life of scholarship and public service. But Ibn Fadlan was not content with a comfortable academic career in Baghdad. He possessed that rare combination of intellectual curiosity and physical courage that marks the true adventurer. The burning desire to experience the world firsthand rather than simply read about it in books. When the opportunity arose to join the embassy to the Bulgars, he didn't hesitate for a moment, understanding that this was his chance to serve Islam while exploring territories that no educated Muslim had ever visited. The mission he was about to undertake would test every aspect of his character and abilities, requiring him to function simultaneously as a religious scholar, a diplomatic representative, a cultural observer, and a survival expert in some of the most challenging conditions on Earth. The embassy that set out from Baghdad in the summer of 921 CE was unlike anything the Islamic world had ever organized before. Leading the mission was Susan al-Rasi, an experienced diplomat who would handle the political aspects of the negotiations, while Ibn Fadlan served as the religious and cultural advisor, responsible for teaching Islamic law and customs to the Bulgars once they reached their destination. The caravan also included other scholars, interpreters, craftsmen, and guards, along with carefully selected gifts for the Bulgar king: magnificent carpets, precious metals, fine weapons, and most importantly, copies of the Quran and other Islamic texts that would form the foundation of Islamic education in the new territory. The journey ahead would take them through some of the most challenging terrain in the known world, from the familiar deserts of the Middle East, through the steppes of Central Asia, across the mighty Volga River, and into the frozen forests of the north, where winter temperatures could kill a man in minutes, and where the very concept of Islamic civilization would seem like a distant dream. But the physical challenges, though immense, were only part of what made this mission so extraordinary. The real test would come when they reached the Bulgar lands and began the delicate process of introducing Islamic law and customs to a people whose entire way of life was built on traditions that had nothing in common with Islamic civilization. The early stages of the journey take the embassy through familiar Islamic territories, but even here, Ibn Fadlan's sharp eye for detail and his natural curiosity lead him to observe and document everything he encounters. He records the customs of different Arab tribes, the economic systems of various cities, the political arrangements of local rulers, and the endless variety of landscapes that make up the vast Islamic world. His approach is always systematic and respectful, understanding that every culture has something valuable to teach, and that his role is not to judge, but to learn and to understand. As the caravan moves northward, leaving the familiar world of Islamic civilization behind, the challenges become more formidable and the observations more fascinating. They encounter the Guz Turks, nomadic warriors whose lifestyle is completely different from anything Ibn Fadlan has experienced before, but whose conversion to Islam has created a unique synthesis of Islamic faith and nomadic culture. His descriptions of their customs, their methods of warfare, their social organization, and their approach to Islamic practice provide invaluable insights into how Islam adapted to different cultural contexts during its expansion. The journey becomes increasingly difficult as they move into territories where Islamic influence is minimal or non-existent, where the very mention of monotheism can provoke suspicion or hostility, where the travelers must rely on their wits and diplomatic skills to avoid conflicts that could end the mission before it reaches its destination. But Ibn Fadlan's faith never wavers, his curiosity never diminishes, and his commitment to the mission never falters, even when the conditions become almost unbearable. As they approach the Volga River, the landscape transforms into something that seems almost otherworldly to a man raised in the heat and dryness of Baghdad. The great river, wider than any waterway he has ever seen, flows through forests that stretch to the horizon, populated by peoples whose customs and beliefs are completely foreign to Islamic civilization. The climate is harsh and unforgiving, with temperatures that drop far below anything he has experienced in the Middle East. And the local population includes tribes that have never heard of Islam and whose first reaction to strangers is often hostility. But it is here, in this challenging environment, that Ibn Fadlan encounters the people who will make his journey legendary. The Rus, the Vikings who have traveled down the great rivers of Eastern Europe to trade with the peoples of the South. His observations of Viking culture, their religious practices, their methods of trade, their social customs, and their approach to warfare provide the most detailed and accurate account of Viking life that has survived from the medieval period. What makes Ibn Fadlan's account so valuable is not just its accuracy and detail, but the perspective it provides. Here is a sophisticated Islamic scholar observing Viking culture with the trained eye of an anthropologist, recording everything he sees without the prejudices that often distort medieval accounts of foreign peoples. His description of Viking funeral practices, including the famous account of a ship burial that inspired countless works of literature and film, represents one of the most vivid and detailed pieces of ethnographic writing from the medieval period. He observes their religious rituals, their treatment of women, their methods of conducting business, their approach to personal hygiene, and their complex social hierarchies, always maintaining the objectivity and respect that mark the true scholar. But his encounters with the Vikings are just one part of a much larger story. The real purpose of his mission is to reach the Bulgars and help them establish Islamic institutions in their kingdom, a task that proves to be far more complex and challenging than anyone in Baghdad had imagined. The Bulgar king, though sincere in his desire to convert to Islam, rules over a diverse population that includes many different tribes and ethnic groups, each with their own customs and religious practices, many of whom are suspicious of foreign influences and resistant to change. Ibn Fadlan must navigate these complex political and cultural dynamics while simultaneously fulfilling his role as a religious teacher and legal expert. He establishes the first mosques in the Bulgar kingdom, trains the first Islamic teachers, develops systems for Islamic education, and creates the legal framework that will govern Islamic practice in this new territory. The work is exhausting and often frustrating, requiring him to adapt Islamic law and customs to local conditions while maintaining the essential principles of the faith. His success in this delicate balancing act demonstrates not only his skill as a scholar and diplomat, but also the flexibility and adaptability that have always been hallmarks of Islamic civilization. The winter in the Bulgar lands tests every aspect of Ibn Fadlan's character and abilities. The cold is more severe than anything he has ever experienced, the isolation is complete, and the cultural differences often seem insurmountable. But he perseveres, driven by his faith and his commitment to the mission, finding ways to connect with the local population and to make Islamic principles relevant to their daily lives. His detailed observations of local customs, climate, geography, and political systems create a comprehensive picture of a society in transition, caught between its pagan past and its Islamic future. When spring finally arrives and the time comes to return to Baghdad, Ibn Fadlan has accomplished something extraordinary. He has successfully established Islam in a territory where it had never existed before, created institutions that will survive for centuries, and produced a document that will provide invaluable insights into medieval cultures for generations of scholars. The journey back to Baghdad is triumphant but bittersweet, as he leaves behind a community that has become like family to him, and returns to a civilization that, though familiar, now seems almost foreign after his months in the north. The account he writes of his travels, known as the Risala, becomes an immediate sensation in Baghdad and throughout the Islamic world. Here is a work that combines the accuracy of a trained observer with the literary skill of a master writer, providing readers with vivid descriptions of peoples and places that most of them will never see, offering insights into the diversity of human culture that challenge many of their assumptions about the world. The Risala is far more than a simple travel account. It is a masterpiece of medieval literature that demonstrates the intellectual sophistication of Islamic civilization and the courage of Muslim explorers who carried the message of Islam to the furthest corners of the known world. What makes Ibn Fadlan's story so relevant to us today is not just its historical importance, but the lessons it offers about cultural understanding, religious tolerance, and the courage required to venture into the unknown. In our modern world, where different cultures often view each other with suspicion and fear, where religious differences are used to justify conflict and hatred, he reminds us that genuine understanding comes only through direct experience and respectful dialogue. His approach to the peoples he encountered was always characterized by curiosity rather than judgment, by respect rather than condescension, by a genuine desire to learn rather than simply to convert. This attitude, rooted in the Islamic principle that all human beings are created by Allah and deserve respect regardless of their current beliefs, allowed him to build bridges between vastly different cultures and to create lasting institutions that benefited everyone involved. Dear brothers and sisters, the story of Ibn Fadlan speaks to us across more than 1,000 years, reminding us that the Islamic tradition has always been one of exploration, learning, and cultural exchange. In an age when some people try to portray Islam as a religion of isolation and intolerance, his example demonstrates that the opposite is true. Islam calls us to explore Allah's creation, to learn from all peoples, and to share the message of monotheism with respect and wisdom. His courage in venturing into the unknown, his skill in adapting to different cultures, and his success in establishing lasting institutions in a foreign land remind us that Muslims have always been pioneers, explorers, and bridge builders who have contributed to human understanding and progress. The legacy of Ibn Fadlan continues to inspire us today, reminding us that the world is full of opportunities for those who have the courage to step outside their comfort zones and the wisdom to approach other cultures with respect and understanding. His story challenges us to be ambassadors of Islam in our own time, to represent our faith with dignity and wisdom, and to build bridges rather than walls between different communities. If this incredible story has moved you, if it has inspired you to learn more about the rich heritage of Islamic exploration and scholarship, please share it with others who need to hear it. Subscribe to our channel and join us as we continue to uncover the forgotten heroes of Islamic history, the men and women whose courage and wisdom helped shape the world we live in today. May Allah grant us all the adventurous spirit of Ibn Fadlan, his respectful approach to other cultures, his unwavering commitment to his mission, and his ability to see the hand of Allah in every corner of creation. Barakallahu fikum, and I'll see you soon, insha'Allah, for more incredible stories from our magnificent Islamic heritage that will inspire and educate you beyond measure.